Hey friends, I want to thank you for listening once again. And in the spirit of transparency, I want to tell you how I am making these podcasts. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's literally the easiest way that I found that I can make a podcast. It's free. And the app actually comes with tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast from your phone or your computer. They distribute your podcast for you. Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts get your actual audio, and you don't have to do anything. That's beautiful. You can make money from it. There's no minimum listenership that you have to have in order to be able to create income from this podcast. It's literally everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So you just have to download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. It's Dr. Erica R. Jones, the host of the Art of Transition podcast. You know how it goes. Got somebody special talking to us today. Typically, we let our guests introduce themselves.
Hi, I am Dr. Renair Amin. I am known as the Pink Love Specialist. I am an LGBTQ Faith Trauma Advocate as well as a relationship wellness coach. And I am so honored and so blessed to you all today.
It is a pleasure to have you here. You said a mouthful. Like, you are doing a lot these days. And, the podcast is all about, transitioning from one thing to another. So tell the people what that means and like where you came from and just a little bit about your journey.
Oh, man, my journey started 40 some odd years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I have, they used to say in church, I've been through a storm. So I always joke and say, oh, I've been through a tornado, a hurricane, a tsunami. But it's the truth. But
You're still here.
I'm still here, and I'm grateful for that. My journey began very early with some family tragedy, my assault, and just loss of children, drug addiction, loss of relationships, loss of family. Like, fast forward 20 years later, and here I am sitting here helping people with their relationships, helping people with their faith-based trauma. And I'm a former minister, It's just been so many elements of my life that I have had the honor, and I always talk about having the honor because I don't take anything for granted, that I've had the honor of coming through that now allows me to help people today. So I always joke and say, like, when people say, I'll never judge you, and people like, no, I'm sure I'll tell you something that'll make you be like, whoa. I can tell you, unless it is something that has to do with an extraterrestrial, there is probably nothing no one can say to me that I on. But what has got me here is grace. That's the truth. It's and grace, because from, like, I dropped out of high school. Mm-hmm. And I dropped out of high school because biological mother and grandmother, sister and brother were killed.
Oh, God.
And this is post my assault, post this, that, and the third. And so even up until, I guess that's 2019, I just had a surgery that almost left here on the table. And coming out of this, which was a hysterectomy, so that it just has made me become more in tune with life. And so now I'm like absolutely committed to helping people build better relationships in their lives and
Mm-hmm.
create better experiences in their life in the TQ community, helping
Mm-hmm.
them heal this conversation of what society or even some churches try to tell them that they're not, which
Got
is,
it.
a child of God, which there's places to tell them that they're not that. And so that's why it has become important for me to engage in that conversation with people.
You're doing some serious work for others, and just from those little tidbits of your past, it's like you also had to do some serious work on yourself. Like, what tools do you feel like you implemented, or any like strategies? I know you mentioned grace, but is there anything that you can like point to, like any type of book or any type of um, person that really kind of helped you get through all of that stuff?
Oh, absolutely. His name was Dr. Weber. I think I saw every week for 5 years straight.
This is a psychiatrist that you saw?
Yes, Lord. Yes, God.
Got it.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, it was a psychiatrist, and I had been institutionalized for like weeks, like one
Mhm.
week here, and then I came home, and then I had to go back, and I was in there for like 2 weeks down in Philadelphia, where I'm originally from,
Mhm.
and I have to say it was those conversations, it was medication, it was learning skills, coping skills. So like I had always been journaling, like here
Mhm.
and there, but journaling began to be, I had to put down all of the thoughts that I didn't know what to do with.
Right.
And so journaling helped me. I will also say that like there were people in my life and some of them are still in my life and some of them are not, but they were so compassionate and they were so loving and they were so understanding because I was like a force to be reckoned with. I don't like to use the word unhealed, but I'll use that for this conversation. I
Uh-huh.
was unhealed and causing damage everywhere I went.
Oh wow. Like a tornado, the
Like that
storms that you went
tsunami.
through. You became the
Exactly.
storm.
Exactly. I have a book called Domestically Cursed where I talk about this 3-year abusive relationship that I was in. And after I got out that relationship, I jumped into another relationship and then I began to be the abuser. Even though it wasn't physical, it was still emotional and verbal abuse nonetheless. So I became
Mm.
everything that I had gotten out of because I thought all I got to do is keep rolling on, you know, and especially in communities of color, like it's this struggle conversation. It's like, oh, you just got to get through. It's something to consistently. And so you're
Right.
consistently rolling to the next thing, to the next relationship, to the next job. It wasn't, I don't want to say no, because that makes it absolute. In my life, there wasn't really an encouragement to stop and breathe,
Mhm.
it, pray about it and move on.
Mm. So where do you feel like you learned the ability to just like pause? Like, it's okay to just exist and, as you said, breathe. If it wasn't in your community, if it wasn't around you, did your psychiatrist do that, or did you just learn over time?
I learned over time because his work was me to unpack all of the abandonment issues and all of the they had diagnosed me as bipolar.
Mhm.
I had all this suicidal ideation. It was just a lot of stuff. So he was like tackling the what he could.
Right.
within his wheelhouse as a I always used to call him your old Jewish man, like let's have this conversation. But he ate in that regard, but there were things that he could not touch because it
Right.
was part of my culture. It was part of my culture, my verse. So I have to be honest with you, and here's the real truth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I learned how to pause until 2018.
Wow. So this is very recent.
It was very recent because I just kept rolling on, and then from 13 to 2018,
Mm-hmm.
my mom that raised me
Mm-hmm.
died. My brother died. My marriage ended.
Mm.
I left ministry. My
Mm.
health was in jeopardy. I looked up and I was just on one of my friends' couches in their house with trash bags in the corner and nothing. I had no job. The job I had at the time they had off. I had no unemployment. Everything was just gone. It was just like something came through and was like, nope, we're not doing this anymore, and just wiped everything out back to back to back. Like it was happening so fast that as soon as I exhaled, I was inhaling again.
And holding that breath.
Right. And so 2018, I was like, whoa, like what just happened? Bad fight. Like I had got slid in the jaw.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from Philly, so it slid in the jaw, right?
Yeah.
I got punched in the jaw and got up, shell shocked. Like, where did everybody go? Like that's how I felt.
Wow.
When everything hit this, and then I started to just sit with some things and process some things, and I had to take that pause, and I was like, you know what, Renair? Starts and ends with you.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody else. Like you can roll on to the next thing, or you can deal with all of this hurt, and it doesn't have to. And I mean, depression was there. If I can be frank, the biggest catalyst in that was one night I'm in the house. I was like, my friend whose house I was staying at, she had left, and I was in the room, and I think I had called my someone in my life at the time, and I just was trying to talk to them, and I started crying, and I got off the phone, and I had like this huge bottle of like Tylenol or Aleve or something. Got me a glass of wine, and I took every pill in the bottle, and I laid down and got up the next day. Woke up the next day like I had just ate a Tic Tac and went to bed. Like I didn't nothing. I didn't feel sick. And I was heated. And I was just like, okay.
So you were angry that you didn't get sick or pass away. You were angry then.
Yes. And I was like, okay, so clearly I am not going anywhere. So what can I do to really get to my healing? Mm-hmm. And that's where it wasn't even a psychiatrist. It really was my circle. Mm-hmm. It really was the people in my life that was like, you know what, no matter what, I got and we got you. And whatever you need, we are here. And slowly, like, things started happening. I ended up getting a job. At the time, I did a pageant. You know, I was like, I'm gonna do the things on me. I went on this mission to love me and stop seeking validation and love from other people. And that's how, You
really had a support system. I mean, you had a couch to lay on. Wow. After all that, you still had a couch to lay on.
Yeah, and the end part, and I know my story is long and I apologize, but the end part the additional level of healing came while I was working on my doctorate, because all this was happening while I was in school. I was trying. They were like, no, you can't drop out. I was like, I'm completing a doctorate in ministry. I have no faith, no hope, no. They were like, no, just hang in there. And so when I started working on my thesis, which was around faith-based trauma and a spiritually traumatized LGBTQ person of color, I had to address trauma. And when I started unearthing the understanding of trauma and the research and everything, what hit me was I had unresolved trauma from all of these instances, going all the way back to the adoption. And this was part of the thread that had been playing out in my life.
Deep.
That long story to get to that was the catalyst of transition for me.
And now
the original trauma.
You've worked through the original trauma. You've understood, where you are and your importance in this universe that we're in right now. And you're helping people. You're doing classes.
Yes. Yes. I teach on Tuesdays about relationship wellness and intimacy, depending on the time of day. I have a night class like twice a month on intimacy. And because I lost my corporate job when the corona started. So I started, once I got back in the groove of things, because for a minute I was like, happening in the world, let me breathe.
Nobody did, honey.
That's not true.
Nobody did. It's like you're just looking around.
That is not true. I had friends that was pumping out content, they were moving, and I was sitting in the corner like, I can't believe what's happening. And it losing that job, and then asked to speak places virtually about LGBTQ trauma. And I had already started, I had just done a conversation about LGBT trauma in Dallas at a conference. And so I was like, yes, I had LLC my business. I was like, let's go. And then Corona hit. And so I was like, okay, let me see where this goes. And I have to tell you, in real honesty, I've had conversations all the way over to people in Turkey.
Wow.
About, faith-based trauma, but from their lens, Islam was their overall religion, but I was part of the panel and I just speak about period, not necessarily.
So for people who don't necessarily know what that means, what is faith-based trauma? What are some examples of faith-based trauma for people who don't know?
Absolutely. So faith-based trauma, some people may call it religious trauma. I make it broader than that because everything doesn't happen always in a religious setting. But it's any type of distressing or disturbing experience or experiences cause a person to question who they are in God or who God is to them, and or is caused by somebody else's religious belief or ideology. So let me give you an example. Faith-based trauma can occur in a person who is continuously sitting in service every Sunday and they're hearing doctrine that is who they are, whether they're LGBTQ or it could even be gender-based. Oh, women can't preach, they can't teach, they whatever, but they're consistently sitting inside of that. And it starts to make them question things about themselves and their faith journey. It can happen through society. This conversation of who you can love, how you can love, and being worried if you're out and about, are you in harm or danger? And then someone says, well, I'm treating you like this because the Bible says that you're an abomination. The Bible says that you're unnatural. Or let's even go bigger than that. Let's go to governmental, where governmental influence says, I can create a law right now that says that you can't adopt your child because that's not natural or normal for a couple to be in a relationship in their same gender level. Where would that come from? Well, our country was built on these Christian tenets. So these are ways that trauma could occur. Because could you imagine you've gotten to this conversation with your life partner, you are planning on adopting a child, and then you're in a state that you can't simply because you're same gender loving?
It's insane.
And now if that causes you to be like, oh my gosh, then what kind of God would allow me to be this? Or what kind of or is something really wrong with me?
Like, why is it so hard? Like,
right.
Got
if I'd have made a different choice in my life, maybe God is punishing me. So those are examples.
Thank you for those examples. Like, that really, paints a clear picture. Even for people who may not know that term, people who've been through it or know people who've been through it, now you can identify like, oh, that's what that is. And that's why she's talking about that, because it is an issue.
Yeah, you would be surprised. And because I'm so amazed. I've been like working with corporations and things around this, and think so because you usually don't see religion part of a corporate experience, but it's people, the people that work there, it's sometimes embedded. It's like implicit inside of the morals or the visions of the company, depending on where they're located or where, the CEO, like a Chick-fil-A. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I see.
I'm just giving an example. I ain't calling out Chick-fil-A, but I'm just saying I want nobody to, cut me. But yeah.
Yeah, I got you. I totally get it. So now that, you've got the education, you're doing the classes, you're helping people. Like, where do you see your future in? How can people get in contact with you? What kind of resources, if people can't contact you and they've had, to deal with the issues that you mentioned, what kind of resources would you refer them to? I know I asked you a bunch of questions like back to back.
No, it's okay. So someone cannot get in touch with me. Like if they decide, no, I want to talk to you, but who can I talk to? There are organizations that are centered around people, I guess you could say, reconcile their sexuality with their faith journey. I mean, if you want me to mention them, I can. So there's like Parity Inc., which is an organization that does that type of work. There, if you are trying to go through, like, you need support or your family needs support because you're coming out, you can go to PFLAG. There's usually a PFLAG in the state, or you can find them online. A lot of stuff has gone virtual rather. And so it's places that you might not be immediately connect to, you can connect to. There are a lot of denominations, so to speak, like that are very informing. So you have progressive movements, you have like UCC, United Church of Christ, and just other denominations that move in being affirming and inclusive, because they're two different things. So inclusive, like I welcome you, everybody's welcome here, and affirming is like you're welcome here and celebrate and affirm who you are.
Thank you for that.
Yeah,
thank you for that clarification. That's important.
They can do research. I actually keep a list of resources. Is I'll make sure I give you the link and you can post it and attach it to this if you would like it, and people can download it. And it's just of organizations that they can attach to, videos that they may be able to watch or even share with people that need understanding, books, links. It's a building list, but it is a list that I share nonetheless.
Thank you. Thank you. And how do people find you?
I am I'm Renair Amin everywhere. So RENAIRAMIN. So that's social media platform. You can also visit my website, pinklovewellness.com. And, you know, sounds like real ego, right? But it's the truth. If you just type Renair Amin into the Google search, something will pop up that you'll find.
That sounds like facts to me.
Yes.
That sounds like straight facts. I want to thank you so much for your time and for sharing and for teaching and making yourself available to just kind of explain some things and to let people know what type of work you're doing and about your journey. It's been a pleasure.
I appreciate that. Thank you for having me. I really, really appreciate that.
I can't wait to see like what you're gonna do next, 2025.
I'm about to win this pageant. That's what's getting ready to happen.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Oh wait, I said that right. So y'all gotta wait till July to see if this, if this is fact. But no, I'm running for Miss Full Figured USA, Miss Exquisite Full Figured USA at large, and in the category for my 40 and over sisters. And yeah.
So how can we cheer you on?
You can cheer me by following me, and you can vote for me as People's Choice. I think it goes to the end of the month or the end of the month, but you can vote for me for People's Choice if you either go on to MissFullFiguredUSA.org. There's vote for People's Choice, or you can find my Instagram page. You know how we say link in bio? It's there.
Okay, all right, we got you.
Yeah.
We got you. Well, thank you so much again.